Hey everybody, Sarah at Nova. This week we are shooting a bike that's so big we're shooting the whole thing wide angle, and it's an interesting machine in a lot of ways. I have a lot of mixed feelings about it, um, but uh, but it's definitely unique. This is a 2013 Triumph Rocket 3. This bike came out in 2003 at 2300 cc. It was the biggest production motorcycle ever made. It would still be the biggest production motorcycle ever made, except in 2019 they updated the model and made it a 2500 cc. So it's ridiculously large, and it's a bonkers bike, is what it is. Real quick, the specs on it: it's a 3-cylinder inline double overhead cam, liquid cooled motor. Inline meaning, longitudinal. That's what I meant. It's inline, but also running front to back. So you can see here the exhaust pipes, boom, 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 rather than across the frame. So the crankshaft is rotating and is aligned with the direction of travel. Not rotating, excuse me. It's rotating opposite direction of travel, but it's aligned with the direction of travel. Yeah, much like a Guzzi or a BMW, among other bikes that do that. Yeah, on the specs: 2300 cc, double overhead cam, liquid cooled, 3-cylinder, puts out just under 150 horsepower, which, for a bike that big is not really a ton of horsepower. But it also has just over 160 foot-pounds of torque, which is ridiculous. It does it all, being much smoother than, say, a Harley or another twin would be, because 3 cylinders are more balanced than a 45-degree V-twin would be. It's quieter because it's liquid cooled. Smooth, as I said, smoother already. But it's just generally sort of better behaved than your traditional big twin would be. And it weighs about 800 pounds, so it's about the same as your biggest Harleys, big Goldwings, stuff like that. So it's a large motorcycle. It's not bigger than other things out there when it comes to the weight. Geez. So I remember when this came out, I was just a young buck and reading motorcycle magazines and reading that Avon tires had to make a tire just for this bike because nobody made a tire big enough. And Avon, being a British company, British named Triumph here, they wanted to do a Brit tire on it. So Avon made a whole new tire, I don't know, 240 or something like that. Super wide, basically made just for this bike. We've done a tire change on one of these in the past, and oh boy, it's not cheap. The cost of just doing the rear tire on this bike is the same or more than your typical two-wheel tire change. But the people who I've known who ride these things, they think they're really cool. They love them. I've had people tell me stories of doing burnouts at 65 miles an hour. Not necessarily meaning to. There's just gobs of torque on hand, gobs of power. And like we said, smooth. I shouldn't go too far without saying this bike is actually going to be for sale. The current owner of it, I believe, is approaching 80 years old. Has just decided it's a bit much for him at this point. But he loved it. I think it's got around 30,000 on the clock. I should be careful what I say. Oh, I was right. 34,429. So around just under 35 on the clock. So he has put some use on it. Again, it's a 2013, so it's 11 years old. Knew enough that it's not going to be an ancient machine, but definitely broken in by this point. It seems to be well cared for. What we've done to it is just kind of, fire it up, make sure it's okay. We're throwing an air filter into it, go through the fluids, basic tune-up and stuff. But it fired right up for us. Runs great. I haven't ridden it yet. I kind of look forward to a little test ride on it. Even though this bike is definitely not my normal cup of tea. This is much larger than I'm normally into. So if you haven't seen our other videos, if you watch our one recently we did about the KZ900 LTD, we talked about that one being the beginning of the sort of the custom cruiser, the factory cruiser era, as well as the sort of the beginning of the muscle bike era. This may be, I don't want to call it too soon, but this might be the end of the muscle bike era. It's hard to know how much bigger you can go than this, how much more power you need, how much bigger you want a motorcycle to be, how much more you want to spend on rear tires riding the thing, and at what point is there enough? I know as soon as I say that question, there's always, the answer is never enough. We actually, in the past year, we had somebody call us wanting to put a supercharger in one of these. We declined because we just basically, for insurance reasons, it sounds like something we could get into a lot of trouble for. And also, it would be a pretty big undertaking that would, be fun to do, but it would really take a lot of time from our normal operation. So we declined. He found somebody else. I hope to see that bike ride through here one day, though, because the owner, that he was very adamant that he loved it and he wanted more power. So, in my mind, this is along the lines of bikes like the Boss Hog, where they take a V8 American pushrod motor and they throw it into a motorcycle. And some of the larger custom SNS based motors were 2200 cc V twins, stuff like that. It was just a honking amount of power, and if that's what you're into, there's really no substitute for it. There's no replacement for displacement, as the saying goes. As a motorcycle to own, other than the cost of like tires and your brakes are going to be wearing out faster, your pads, your rotors, stuff like that. The wear items are going to be going through them more, but they actually have a great service record. They're relatively reliable. It's this day and age, a modern motor like this, the Triumph is putting out incredibly reliable machines, as good as anything from the Japanese. So it's really not a lot of drawbacks to getting into something like this, other than those wear items. This is just a big old machine. It's really hard to say what you would use this for, except I know, for me to say that, because I'm into more sporty things, lighter things, and nimbler things. But I know if I was sitting on a highway in the middle of nowhere in just a straight line, this thing would probably cruise at 130 all day long. And, you would never have to, you could fall asleep at that speed. It's just that kind of a big cruiser. So yeah, if you're into these things, into big cruisers like this in general, let us know your thoughts on this bike. If you've owned these, let us know. I completely missed. I'm doing this one backwards apparently, because this is a backwards machine to me. The name Rocket 3 comes from the 1969 BSA Triumph Triple. Back when the first generation of Triumph, it was actually the BSA that was called the Rocket 3. The Triumph was called the Trident. But I'm glad they went with the Rocket 3 name, A, because I do like BSAs. I want to keep that alive. And B, it just sounds cooler than Trident. Trident is some weird sea god. A Rocket 3 is, a 3-cylinder rocket. There you go. So I'm glad they kept that alive. They did actually change the badge. You see on the numeral on this one, the Rocket Roman numeral 3, when they went to the 2500 cc, when they made it into a regular Arabic 3, the 3 we're used to here in the English language. So yeah, as I said, if you're into these things, let us know. If you let us know about them, your stories, why you like them. If you like something other than this, if you're a big twin person and you like that, let us know. If you ride a Boss Hog, let us know why you chose it. This is all a bit foreign to me, but yeah, it's a completely unique bike. Oh, and lastly, before we go, Triumph did make a land speed record contender out of this. I believe it was 2 of these motors. I'm going off the top of my head. It might even have been 3 of them, in a row, in a huge machine. I saw it once at the One Show a few years back. Huge thing. And I think Guy Martin rode it for a while. It's probably amongst other people's too. So you can look into that stuff. It is a horsepower producing thing. It can be tuned to make a lot more than this one makes. This is relatively detuned, mild, you might say, weirdly enough. So yeah, thanks for watching. Let us know what you think about these things. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it.